Hi and welcome, I'm Katie Hacker. Today we'll make our color story memorable as we make a bracelet with memory wire, parachute cord, and beads. Author Ashley Bunting is here to share her story and show us how. Hi Ashley.
Hi Katie.
Welcome.
Thanks, it's so great to be here.
Glad to have you.
Thanks.
And I love your projects, these are beautiful. You have such an eye for color.
Thanks. Yeah, I really like to, these projects specifically are using the memory wire and the parachute cord. A lot of the projects are kind of a monochromatic color palette. So I'll choose some of the cords I really like working with and pair them with the other cords that look nice.
Right, so you're kind of looking at, you don't even need a color wheel, but if you did use a color wheel, you're kind of looking for colors that are next to each other.
Right, yeah.
Or sort of have similar undertones even.
So you can see the purple bracelet uses like a purple, a dark navy, and a green. So they're kind of got this earthy berry feel to it. The orange one is kind of coppers and warm tones, and then there's kind of a cool beachy blue tone bracelet too.
Well, these are so fun.
Thanks.
Welcome. How do we get started?
Okay, so memory wire, if it's kind of one of the first things you do in jewelry a lot of the times is using memory wire because it's a really simple tool. And what it is, it's a coil of steel wire that keeps its form once you put beads and other components onto it.
Right, so you don't even need a clasp.
Exactly.
Easy to wear.
The one thing that is tricky about it is steel, so you don't want to use any of your nice wire cutters on the steel wire because it will dent them and dull them and eventually ruin them. So you want to make sure you do have a cutter that's for hard wire, steel, or ferrous wire.
Okay. Yeah, these are, it's really important because it can take a little bite out of your jewelry.
Exactly, yeah. You'll
Flush
have a
cutters.
dent, yeah. So I'll start by cutting my wire, and I'll usually start with about 6 coils. You can do as many as you want. The more, coils, the further it's going to fill up your wrist.
Makes it look like it's a stack.
Exactly, which is really popular right now.
Sure is.
So I'll just cut my wire, and then I'm going to coil the end. And there's this new memory wire too that comes as a flat wire, and what's nice about that is it gives it a really nice finished look to the end. And so I'm going to use a tweezer nose plier to coil the end of my memory wire. And I'm using that instead of a round nose because it is that steel wire. It can be really hard to get a nice grip on it because it's so tough. So the flat of the interior of this plier gives me a better grip on my wire.
It also adds kind of a funky look there at the end of your bracelet.
Yeah, you can kind of just play with it, have
fun. More of an artistic effect.
It doesn't have to be anything perfect.
Great.
So that's how I'm creating, so essentially this is just creating a stop for my components so they don't just slip right off the end of your wire.
Okay, that makes sense.
So that's the beginning of your memory wire. Then we're going to go into working with the parachute cord.
Okay.
So this is parachute cord here. It is a synthetic, so it's a plastic nylon material. And it's also a kern mantle rope, meaning...
What does that mean?
That means that it has an outer mantle or sheath and then the interior core or kern. So we're going to use some high durability scissors to cut this. It is a thicker cord. It does come in different thicknesses, and this is the thickest.
Okay, so when you're looking for parachute cord, you want the thickest one if you're going to use it this way.
Exactly. Because we're creating tubes that act like beads. You want to still have a nice interior opening to be able to slide it onto your material. So I like to start by cutting a variety of lengths, usually between about 1 inch to 1.5 inches, 2 inches. So I'll just cut kind of a bunch of different chunks of my parachute cord.
All right.
In various lengths. And then I'm going to use those tweezer nose again to pull out the interior core of it. So this white material just comes out, and now you've got this nice little tube.
Great, and it keeps its shape too, even though you've pulled out the core.
Yep, it still keeps its shape because it's woven tightly.
Right.
And then to keep it from fraying on the ends, we're just going to hit the very end with a little bit of heat. And what that does, since it is that synthetic, it melts all the frayable fibers together, and it'll just stay a nice little tube.
Okay.
So we're just gonna do it very lightly. So you'll just see that you'll get like a little bead of melting around the edge. You don't want it to actually catch on fire, and you don't want it to melt down. And
just taking care of kind of sealing the ends.
exactly. And another thing, when you are cutting, you want to make sure that you're cutting in a nice flat line. So then when you're adding your beads, your cord will actually flatly butt up against your bead.
Okay,
and
so
not
rather than cutting on a diagonal.
exactly. So I have here a bunch of them prepared already. And I'm doing kind of a nice green-blue tones here.
Yeah, and you know, you have it under this light so that you can really see the colors. This is a great thing to just mention briefly, is that when you're doing color matching and things, it's really important to have something that resembles daylight.
Yes,
inside.
exactly.
At your workspace.
Yeah. Your colors will change a lot from a fluorescent bulb to a natural daylight bulb or in just sunlight. So now that I've got my colors chosen and my cord prepared and my bead selection, which you can, what's nice about this project is you can just kind of have like a bunch of leftovers. Like, oh, I have a bunch of stone and
Bead
some
soup.
crystal, bead soup.
Yeah.
And it works really well that way. So I'm just gonna start by sliding on one of my tubes. So I'll just put that onto my memory wire and slide it down. And then I'll choose whatever bead I want to work with first. I'm going to put on a little stone here. And then I like to stick to a pattern. So hunter green, navy, drab, olive. So I'll get my next navy on there.
Okay. This would be a fun way to explore some color theory too. You could use like secondary, primary, tertiary colors.
And what's nice about this, the parachute cord, is it comes in so many cool varieties of color. And you know, when you approach it, sometimes it can seem just like really, you know, too neon maybe for your color palette, but you can really mix and match them and kind of play them down to a more natural, muted tone or into like a really crazy, funky color palette.
Yeah, I like all these earthy effects you have going on here. It looks great.
Nice.
And that's a really great tip too for when you're adding beads to memory wire. You want to coil them around rather than trying to stretch the wire out.
Yes.
Because it constantly is springing back to its shape.
Right.
And you don't want to accidentally take it out of shape either.
Right. So I'm just going to get these around to the end. And then once you start forming your first wrap around, you're going to want to play with where your next beads land. So I'll get one more bead and one more cord on there. Let's do this guy.
Okay.
Also, when I'm doing this project, I like to choose kind of like one special bead or charm. So with the examples up front, they have these cool little star beads, and then the purple one has some lamp work. So you can really mix and match and play with all kinds of different materials, which lends itself well to the fact that you're using kind of an unusual material like the parachute cord.
Yeah, I like that mixture of handmade and machine made. They look really good together.
So I'm just coiling down this here.
Okay. Then we can see how it's going to start laying together.
Right, so now you can see that your next bead will be added nicely kind of in the middle of your cord. So you want to decide if you want, like when I started I did a whole bunch of different sizes of cord because I kind of like it to look kind of like a conglomerate of...
A little more mixed up than just perfectly uniform. But if you wanted it to be perfectly uniform, you could do that
Exactly, you could cut all 2-inch pieces and then it would look, all your beads when you wore it would line up.
Great.
So I'll add I'm going to do a stone next.
Okay.
And coil that down.
You could make these for every day of the week.
Yes, yeah, you could do all different color palettes. Of course, here somehow I've managed to tangle it.
It happens.
It happens to the best
It
of us.
sure does. But the great thing is you just find your end and work it
Right.
back out. There you go. Yeah, I think too you can choose to use the metal color to work with your colors as
yeah,
well. So
yep.
using gold or silver, depending on what color beads you're using, can be another way to bring it in.
So I've got that figured out now. And I'm just going to do a couple more, and then I'm going to show you how to end your bracelet. Because again, you can make this in any amount of coil. You could really just do one around if you wanted, or you could do a whole ton of them.
Another thing you could do is if you wanted to make this a bangle, you could hook your loops together on one single ring and just kind of bump it out bigger.
Yep, so you could do
and
individual.
then push it inside the tube. That'd be kind of cool too.
Individual bangles, or you really, you know, it is soft enough, so if I wanted to do a loop right here, I could really do like a little lobster claw clasp and actually have it clasp closed too.
Yeah, there are a lot of different ways that you can use it, kind of outside the box. Very good.
All right, so I'm just gonna get one more on there, and then I'm gonna cut it and show how to end your bracelet.
Okay, so you have 2 of each color, but you could keep going.
Yeah.
And we'll have the suggestions on our website so people can follow the instructions.
Exactly, yeah. So I'm just gonna coil this down one more time.
Looks good.
So once you've got your desired amount, you're gonna cut your cord or cut your memory wire. And I like to give myself about 3/4 of an inch.
Okay.
And you cut that. And then we're gonna do that same coil again.
That gives you a nice little spot to hang some beaded dangles too, or some charms if you wanted to.
Yeah, that's another thing that's nice about this project is that you could do some like stamped charms, you could do little dangles, you can do just the beads. It's really open to your own interpretation of really what you want to do.
And you know what? I can totally see our seed bead artists weaving through the cord itself. Once their bracelet is made, adding seed beads along each of those tubes.
Yeah, you could stitch right into
That's right. That would
this
be really neat too.
So here's a little baby one. So it just would be around your wrist.
One time.
Like so, and you could wear, you know, you could again make it bigger, or you could make a whole bunch of different ones. You could stick with one color palette like this, or each ring could be different, so they really look like different bracelets, but they're all connected together.
Great idea. So let's take, I know you're an author too, and I'd love to take a look at some of the projects from your book. So let's start out with this one.
Yep. So that one there is using leather, and I really like the idea, like with the parachute cord, kind of transforming it into a different component.
And this necklace uses parachute cord, this one over
That
here.
one does too.
Yeah, let's take a look at that one and talk a little bit, since we've just been talking about parachute cord, this is a totally different look.
Yes, yep, so again, I like the muted palette of this piece. Rather than removing the core, you can see the little links to that necklace are the parachute cord.
Yeah, I could see using that to make a lot of different types of links, components, linking them together. And then let's talk, starting with the bracelet over there, it looks like you used some ribbon with chain.
Yep, so that is using a velvet ribbon. And what's kind of nice about that piece is, you know, normally if you have a bracelet that ties on, it's really hard to get on and off. But that piece actually stretches. You can untie it, stretch it over your wrist, and it's already comfortably on your wrist.
Oh, nice.
And then you tie it, so it kind of gives you like a third hand and makes wearing it a lot easier.
Very good. And then the piece with the braided cords, you could use that same type of technique. It looks like you wire wrap the ends to your filigree.
Yep.
You could use the same idea with the parachute cord too.
Oh yeah, totally.
Any type of cord
you
would
could
work
make
for
a
that.
big, funky, chunkier piece like that. And that piece kind of focuses on figuring out your own findings. So like that, you can wrap your cord rather than finding like a cord end. You can glue something to a clasp to make it into a focal piece. So kind of all of the pieces focus on like creating your own components.
Very cool. And what about these? Did you do the beads yourself?
Yes.
Pink and purple?
Yep, so those are like jumbo pony beads, and then they're wrapped with a cotton cord. So it gives you kind of a cool combination of the steel like gourd shapes with the stripy bright colors.
All right, and tell us just a little bit about the earrings.
The earrings, the black earrings there are a leather, and then they use an ink and just a rubber stamp, so you can stamp right onto that leather and then cut out your shape around it.
So you're really taking advantage of that fiber, the fibrous finish.
Yeah, so then, with leather you don't have to worry about the edges fraying. It's a smooth material, and they're really lightweight, so you can have these kind of big earrings, but they're not going to weigh down on your ears.
Sure. And these are really pretty too, and it looks like you did just some embroidery floss.
Yeah, yep. Lace. So that's just a piece of lace, and then you use, I used waxed linen for that and just stitched in and out. So you get a little touch of color with kind of your just cream lace tone.
Well, these are some great ideas for bringing fiber and cording into our jewelry making. Thank you so much, Ashley.
Thank you.